$6.99.
Thank you for making Coin 6 News your #1 choice for evening news.
Resolved that William Jefferson Clinton, President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors. And
the House of Representatives opens a debate that could lead to the removal of the 42nd President of the United States.
This is the CBS Evening News, with Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
And this is a special live Western edition. Good evening. On a solemn and history-making day, CBS is focusing a special one-hour edition of the Evening News on the converging stories of the House session to impeach the president and new U.S. military strikes against Iraq, including this within the last hour.
Anti-aircraft fire has opened up.
It lit up the Baghdad night. At least 6 massive explosions counted in and around Baghdad. More about that coming up shortly. But right now, for only the second time in U.S. history, the full House of Representatives is debating impeachment of the president. Tomorrow, the House is expected to pass 1 or more impeachment counts. Republican leaders and some others are now pushing for the president to resign before a Senate trial to possibly remove him. Bob Schieffer has late developments. Bob?
Well, Dan, we do have some late developments and dramatic ones. First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton is planning to come to Capitol Hill tomorrow, just hours before the impeachment vote comes. She'll meet privately with Democrats. We're told that this is kind of a rallying session. She wants to thank them for their support so far. The debate on impeachment has been going on all day. It's still going on tonight. Here's how it all began.
Resolved that William Jefferson Clinton, President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors.
It was 9:30 Eastern Standard Time that the clerk of the House read the chilling words that made it official. The People's House was debating whether to ask the Senate to remove the president from office. Judiciary Chairman Henry Hyde laid out the case for impeachment.
It's not a question of sex. Sexual misconduct and adultery are private acts and are none of Congress's business. It's not even a question of lying about sex. The matter before the House is a question of lying under oath. This is a public act, not a private act. This is called perjury.
Democrats wanted no part of it. How, they asked, could Congress even raise such an issue while the attack on Iraq was underway?
When our young soldiers, men and women, are in harm's way, we should not be debating and considering and talking about removing our commander-in-chief. I ask the majority one last time to reconsider what you are doing.
It was truly a House divided. Republican Lindsey Graham had once hoped impeachment could be avoided, but no longer.
And he deserves to be impeached based on what he did. Not what I think about him, not how I voted, but what he did.
Democrats urged censure rather than taking the awesome step of impeachment, but their impassioned pleas went nowhere.
What the president did was wrong, but it simply does not rise to the height or sink to the depths of an impeachable offense. I know it, you know it, and most importantly, the American people know it.
Most of the time, the debate followed party lines, but there were exceptions. King of New York was one of the few Republicans against impeachment.
For a president to be impeached, a president of the United States to be impeached, for an election to be undone, there must be a direct abuse of presidential power.
McHale of Pennsylvania was among the handful of Democrats who favored impeachment.
The most basic rights of the people will be preserved only so long as public officials at every level of government tremble before the law.
And on it went into the evening. Most Republicans convinced the president had betrayed the people's trust. Democrats convinced he was being railroaded.
Our Constitution does not allow us, no, does not allow you to remove a president from office because you can't stand him.
But whatever its reasons, the House is moving tonight inexorably toward that conclusion. All sides now agree that when the House votes tomorrow, they will vote to impeach the president and send the case to the Senate for trial early next year. After the vote, we're told a delegation of Democrats will go to the White House and urge the president, Dan, not to resign.
Bob Schieffer at the Capitol. A CBS News New York Times poll out tonight indicates 60% of Americans want the president punished, but they do not want him impeached. As of now, 68% say it's better for the country if President Clinton finishes his term. 29% favor resignation. The CBS poll also indicates potential political danger for the Republicans. 61% say the GOP majority is, quote, out of touch with the public view on impeachment. The president's camp is already looking past almost certain impeachment by the House to trying to prevent removal from office by the Senate. The Clinton people are also fighting what they see as a Republican leadership push for the president to resign. In line with that, First Lady Hillary Clinton reemerged in public today as first defender of the president. Scott Pelley at the White House has the quotes, the pictures, and the facts. Scott?
Dan, sources tell CBS News that the president is now personally contacting Democratic senators to discuss with them what is now a probable trial in the Senate. We are told that the president is trying to gauge the mood of the senators. We also understand that Mr. Clinton personally contacted former Senator George Mitchell and has asked him to join the defense team. As for the House of Representatives, the White House now believes that the first presidential impeachment in 130 years is now a foregone conclusion. The White House kept the president out of sight and far from reporters. This is the only video of Mr. Clinton on the day he faced impeachment. It was recorded by a European crew covering the Austrian chancellor.
Let's take a little picture here and then we'll go. Yes.
The president appeared relaxed, even if some wear seemed to show on his face. Only photographers were allowed, ensuring no questions. As the vote nears, the White House worries that impeachment will increase pressure on Mr. Clinton to resign. Today, 2 Democrats called for his resignation, even though they will vote against impeachment. Democrat Louise Slaughter of New York said impeachment would diminish his standing as a world leader, so he should consider stepping down. Democrat William Lipinski of Illinois said, I think it would be best for the country if he would resign and pass the office of the presidency to Vice President Gore. A new CBS News New York Times poll shows 41% believe it would be better if Mr. Clinton resigned after impeachment. 54% disagree. But with a margin that narrow, White House officials worry that opinion could turn on a dime. Today, the only public appeal from the White House came from the First Lady.
You know, the vast majority of Americans share my approval and pride in the job that the president's been doing for our country. And I think in this holiday season, as we celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah and Ramadan, and it's a time for reflection and reconciliation among people, we in our country ought to practice reconciliation, and we ought to bring our country together.
Tonight, a longtime ally of the president in the Senate warns that once a trial begins, it could, in his words, spin out of control. Dan?
Scott Pelley at the White House. For context, perspective, and background, joining us now, CBS News analyst Gloria Borger. Gloria, what about this worry in the president's camp and elsewhere that he is being rolled toward resignation by the Republicans and some others, and how do they hope to fight it?
Well, Dan, as Scott Pelley just reported, they are afraid of calls for resignation. I spoke with one high administration official today who said, we have 10 days to get this under control. If we don't get it under control in 10 days, we are going to be in real trouble. Now, Dan, one way they're trying to get it under control is by having Louisiana Senator John Breaux be their go-to guy. He is somebody who's of great value to them. He's a moderate Democrat. He's a close friend of the president's. But his best and most important virtue may be that he is Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott's best personal friend in the Senate. We're told he's already tried to contact the Majority Leader. He's trying to get together with him to sort through this process for the White House. Dan?
Gloria Borger in Washington. You may want to keep in mind that when the talking is over, the voting tomorrow by the full House will be about 4 impeachment counts, accusations against the president. These include 2 counts of perjury, 1 count of obstruction of justice, and 1 alleging abuse of power. The United States Constitution defines impeachable offenses as high crimes and misdemeanors. The president's defenders have said Mr. Clinton's conduct is reprehensible, censurable, but not impeachable. And you may also want to keep in mind impeachment does not mean automatic removal from office. That would come only after conviction by 2/3 of the Senate or possibly the president resigns. Now, still ahead on this special expanded edition of tonight's CBS Evening News, how the Republican Bob Livingston infidelity story made the front pages, the potential impact of a presidential impeachment on your wallet, plus tonight's other major story, new U.S. airstrikes against Iraq and new defiance from Saddam.
Life's an adventure because you're over 50 and still exploring. So take the Centrum made just for you, Centrum Silver, with age-essential nutrients specially adjusted to keep pace with your changing nutritional needs. Centrum Silver, it's a great time to be silver.
These days, everything's faster. So how come pain relief isn't faster? Introducing Advil Liquid Gels. On tough pain, they're stronger and faster than extra strength Tylenol. New Advil Liquid Gels. Pain relief, stronger and faster.
So I get this mail from Progressive saying they have a smart new way to shop for auto insurance.
Progressive, can I help you?
They give you their rates plus the rates of several other companies. I wonder whose rates are going to be lowest.
It looks like you could save over $200 if you went with...
What? You're an insurance company?
Hey, we know how hard it is to shop for auto insurance. A lot of times we're the lowest. Sometimes we're not.
That's not what I expected from an insurance company. And then he said, well, maybe you should.
Call 1-800-AUTO-PRO or your authorized independent agent.
When we were traveling cross country, we stopped at a place. They had the business channel. We started watching, and the market was going down, and we said, there are these stocks we wanted to buy, and from the road we called up.
Called Schwab because we didn't have a phone modem in the motorhome, so we couldn't trade online. Where were we?
Utah.
Utah.
We were in Utah.
On a payphone, talking to Schwab,
Trying to get...
buying the stocks. There was a feeling of exhilaration. Hey, we've done it. You've committed to it. Then we got back in the motorhome and traveled on our way.
And those purchases have done well.
Very well.
In Baghdad tonight, vivid, loud proof of more third-day U.S. air attacks on Saddam Hussein's capital. Huge, brilliant explosions shattering the darkness and the quiet. We go now live to CBS's Mark Phillips, who's covering the air war from a Baghdad rooftop. Mark?
Dan, until a short time ago, this had been the quietest day here in Baghdad in this campaign, but I can tell you now it's now become the noisiest. The most sustained, heavy bombardment of Baghdad may just be winding down now, or this may just be a lull, but this is what it looked and sounded like. This attack started about half an hour ago. It followed the usual pattern. The Iraqis, apparently aware that there was incoming ordnance coming their way, opened up with their anti-aircraft fire. And then one after another, major explosions. They seem to be of the heavier type of warhead used on the cruise missile, the 2,000-pound warhead. A lot of them hitting in the same places that had been hit on the previous 2 nights of attacks here. In other words, perhaps the Pentagon and military planners feeling they wanted one more go at the targets they were not satisfied had been destroyed enough. At one point, we actually saw a cruise missile come in, that red glare coming out of the tail engine of the missile as it flew toward its target. On and on this went in waves again. We counted a good dozen major explosions, perhaps more. Our view here is only of about 180 degrees of the horizon. Other people have told us, and other people in our crew have seen, a good deal of fire right around Baghdad in every possible direction. There had been a lot of talk today that this might be the winding down of this campaign of bombardment from the skies. If that's the case, this last go at Baghdad was a real dandy. Dan?
Mark, any indication that any of that airstrike material hit the information ministry?
No, it did not hit the information ministry, but some of it was closer than anything we have seen. I would estimate at least one of the hits was within, a third of a mile, if perhaps that much. The gap between the flash and the sound was under 2 seconds. That's pretty close.
Thanks, Mark. U.S. warplanes were in action today and tonight, even as the House of Representatives debated impeaching the commander-in-chief. And Saddam Hussein went on Iraqi television to call on his people to resist. But Saddam's strategy seems to be dig deeper, wait it out, then claim victory and maybe get an end to the economic sanctions. CBS's David Martin has the latest on the air war and a look ahead. David?
Dan, the Pentagon had planned for one more night of bombing after tonight, but with the start of the Muslim holy holiday of Ramadan, there is increasing pressure to call off the strikes against what has turned out to be an easy target.
Except for blind volleys of anti-aircraft fire, U.S. and British airstrikes have encountered virtually no resistance. Laser-guided bombs have knocked out early warning radars and surface-to-air missiles, punching holes in Iraq's defenses. Still, military officers like Admiral Scott Fry are surprised by Saddam's rope-a-dope strategy.
If there is any surprise, it's the complete lack of response.
I think that they're essentially trying to protect themselves right now and believe that that's a better tactic than trying to go and fight against the attack.
More than 75 targets have been hit, many of them more than once. Everything from an oil refinery that was a source of revenue for Saddam, to radio towers, to missile storage sites, to weapons factories.
And the final assembly building, which used to stand right here.
But Joint Chiefs Chairman General Hugh Shelton acknowledged not every bomb and cruise missile has found its target.
We, in fact, have had some very good success with our strikes, but not all of them have gone exactly as planned.
The U.S. has fired upwards of 350 cruise missiles, more than the entire Gulf War, and flown more than 400 missions, including the combat debut of the B-1, which can drop huge loads of 500-pound bombs. And reminding the Iraqi army of what happened to it in the Gulf War, U.S. planes dropped leaflets promising only those units loyal to Baghdad would be hit, a not very subtle call to mutiny.
Defense officials say they will wait until tomorrow morning when they can review satellite photos of the damage done by tonight's attacks before deciding whether to call off the strikes. Dan?
David Martin, still ahead here on CBS. An investigation into the bombshell revelations about the new Speaker of the House.
It's my wife. I left her sitting right here.
How long has she been gone?
You don't think?
Aha. What? Checked out Red Hot Harry's?
No way. Lucinda gets really bad heartburn.
Not anymore, she doesn't.
What's that?
Looks like the remains of an individually wrapped Pepsid AC chewable.
Introducing Pepsid AC Chewables, the first chewable to stop heartburn before it starts. Lucinda? Is that you?
Start living heartburn-free with new Pepsid AC Chewables. When they said the world didn't need another nose strip, we said we'll make one that gives instant relief of nasal congestion symptoms and is ergonomically contoured for a good fit. Introducing Clear Passage nose strips. After all, we're the maker of the Afrin brand, and who knows more about the nose?
Denture wearers, look who's starring for Polident. Me, Florence Henderson. Just smell all that mint. Polident fights denture odor while it cleans tough stains. Take a tip from Florence. Get minty fresh Polident to fight denture odor every day.
Okay, you probably think they look alike. But with Gateway, you get basic help over the phone for as long as you own it. After a month, you pay for it. Here, you get a color printer. Nope, not here. This one you can trade in toward the purchase of a new one after 2 years. Yours forever. Still think they look alike? We'll build you a PC like this one for $1,598 or $45 a month. Call Gateway about guaranteed Christmas delivery.
Not everyone can be surrounded by nice things this holiday. KOIN 6 News urges you to remember our neighbors in need.
Give what you can, and together we can make this holiday happier.
Republican Leigh LaHood of Illinois presided at today's House session on impeachment, not the incoming House Speaker, Bob Livingston. LaHood warned House members that the rules forbid attacks on the personal lives of other lawmakers. This came on the heels of revelations about Livingston's own marital infidelities. Now, what's behind this story? Behind the story of how Livingston's personal life suddenly got public into play and on the front pages. CBS's Wyatt Andrews has investigated.
As if the scene in Washington wasn't already bizarre, last night one of the top men pursuing the president's scandal, rising House Speaker Bob Livingston, distributed a statement admitting to a scandal of his own. I have on occasion strayed from my marriage, the statement said, and doing so nearly cost me my marriage and my family. Livingston went on. These indiscretions were not with employees, he said, and I have never been asked to testify under oath about them.
But why would Livingston drop such an explosive announcement on the very eve of impeachment
Here's one reason.
We immediately had 4 women making accusations against Livingston.
Hustler magazine and its porn-purveying editor Larry Flint say he was the one investigating. In October, Flint took out this newspaper ad, promising $1 million for proof of sexual affairs with married congressmen. He claims his information on Livingston led to the admission.
Well, I believe he knew that it was going to come out, and he felt that he would preempt it by making a sort of bland admission.
Some Republicans charge this was a White House operation, but the White House and Flint deny it. And yet Flint admits that by hiring Washington investigators, his story could have leaked to Democratic partisans. In any event, most Democrats, instead of exploiting the issue, pleaded for an end to bedroom journalism.
The politics of smear and slash and burn must end.
Still, at the beginning of this historic debate, here was Hustler holding sway in the House. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Washington.
The last time a president was impeached, there was no Dow Jones and no NASDAQ. Up next, how impeachment now might affect your investments.
Oh, this head cold. I'm so clogged up, I just can't focus.
You okay? Get Tavus D. Just one works 12 hours versus 4 Tylenol cold pills. Tavus D clears your congestion. Be clear-headed, clear through your day with Tavus D.
I'm 64. Is there anything I can do to stop bone loss?
Absolutely. Here's proof. In a landmark clinical study, Caltrate actually stopped bone loss in women at risk for osteoporosis, whatever your age.
It's never too late for Caltrate. I love being out in the sun. It makes me feel so alive. Now I really enjoy being outdoors because I've discovered this new lotion that's been awarded the Skin Cancer Foundation seal, designed for women our age. This SPF 15 formula, with intense vitamin-enriched moisture, helps protect maturing skin from future UV damage. It minimizes, even helps prevent, age spots. And the name? ProVital Protective Moisture Lotion from Oil of Olay, proven to help you look revitalized.
New individually wrapped all-days panty liners. Tastefully toteable. New individually wrapped all-days panty liners. Remarkably mobile.
Long live the Queen! 2 thumbs up for Elizabeth. It's simply magnificent.
May I join you, my lady?
If it please you, sir.
Nominated for 3 Golden Globe Awards.
You must not fear to strike.
Best Actress, Kate Blanchett.
Do not presume to know the secrets of my heart.
Best Director, Shaker Kapoor.
You are in the greatest danger.
And Best Picture of the Year.
I am my father's daughter. I am not afraid of anything.
Elizabeth, rated R. Now playing everywhere.
The Raiders fight to stay alive against the NFL's top defense, the Chargers. Or the Oilers and the Packers both battle for playoff spots. The NFL on CBS.
On Wall Street, stock prices closed higher today. The Dow Industrial is up 27 points. They closed at 8,903. The Dow ends this week with a net gain of 81 points, shaking off so far any concern about President Clinton's problems. CBS's Anthony Mason reports tonight on the possible impact on financial markets if, as now seems likely, the president is impeached.
JP, Temper 4411 sold.
Stocks have been through a bumpy ride in the past 6 months. Could impeachment unnerve the markets again? Wall Street is not acting worried.
I just don't see any real upset occurring here. I think the markets are dealing with it pretty well.
Wick Simmons is president and CEO of one of the nation's largest brokerage firms, Prudential Securities.
For the last 6 years, he's been a particularly vulnerable president on issues like this, and that doesn't seem to have hurt the markets at all.
But constitutional crises have never been good for stocks. Around Richard Nixon's resignation, the Dow plummeted more than 40%.
It may affect the market for a day or even for a week, but nothing fundamental changes.
Whatever happens, former Fed Governor Lawrence Lindsay says the two pillars of our economic policy will still be in place. Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan and Treasury Secretary Robert Rubin.
I think the market has far more to worry about than the fate of Bill Clinton.
The troubles in Asia, for example, in Russia, and now again with Iraq. For Wall Street, Washington's economic policy is more important than who's in the White House.
Many corporate executives are reluctant to get in the middle of this political fight. But quietly, some CEOs have been saying for months that if the country was a corporation, Bill Clinton would already be out of work.
As a business decision, to me, it would be a no-brainer.
Russ Reynolds, founder of an executive headhunting firm, now advises corporate boards.
It would be handled quickly, it would be handled discreetly, and it would be handled effectively and permanently at any cost.
It's not business, of course, it's politics, messy and public. Still, Prudential's president isn't calling his congressman to say the economy's at risk.
I'm calling my congressman for lots of reasons, but that's not one.
But Wall Street may be dialing up Messrs. Greenspan and Rubin to be reassured they'll stay should the president go. Anthony Mason, CBS News, New York.
Russia helping Saddam, next on CBS.
So, Chris, have you ever had trouble finding someone's phone number?
Oh, yeah, especially when I don't know the area code.
Well, you're going to love 1010-9000, the only number you need for directory assistance.
How's it work?
Just dial 1010-9000, tell the operator whose number you want and where they live. That's all there is to it.
Sounds easy.
They'll even dial it for you with no connection charge.
They thought of everything.
It was my idea. 1010-9000, directory assistance for everyone in America.
Things in life can change like that. All that work, and it's gone. But Farmers Insurance can help you get things back to the way they once were. That's why everything we do, from the way policies are written to the way claims are handled, revolves around getting you back to that point. Isn't that what insurance is supposed to do? Hey, wires can short out. Toasters can catch fire. These things happen. But with Farmers, we can at least help get you back where you belong.
You know, the last I looked, the average workday lasts more than a few hours, right?
Right.
But average pain relievers may work for a few hours, then quit. Well, now there's Aleve. Aleve's the one with the strength to work on arthritis pain all day long with just 2 pills. It would take 8 Tylenol to do that. So, if your pain reliever isn't putting in a full day's work,
Fire it.
fire it and take Aleve. 2 pills, all day relief. Works for me.
Announcing an amazing discovery. One-A-Day has combined the power of herbs with vitamins to help you during the cold season, support your mood, even memory. New from One-A-Day. Just what you need to feel your best.
Yves Saint Laurent Eyewear by Luxottica. What do you want people to see?
I want you to see discretion.
Dignity.
I want you to see how the girl next door turned out.
Let them see you in Yves Saint Laurent Eyewear by Luxottica.
Russia today stepped up its protests against the attacks on Iraq. Moscow has recalled its ambassadors from Washington and London, and today the Russian foreign minister warned that further airstrikes could seriously harm U.S.-Russian relations. The White House said President Clinton has written to Boris Yeltsin defending the U.S. policy. Now, coming up for many of you in our second half of this expanded CBS Evening News, more about the Hillary factor in the president's defense, some historical perspective, the impeachment of President Andrew Johnson, and you'll see how